Hi guys, this is gsml.com and I'm here with the BlackBerry Passport, the famous BlackBerry Passport that was announced in June and launched in September, and it signals the rebirth of the company BlackBerry. This one is a QWERTY and touch handset with a QWERTY keyboard also serving a sort of a touchpad. The device costs right now $600 in USA. It even reached $500 on Black Friday, and BlackBerry had a special program where you can bring an iPhone and you can get back up to $550 with a special exchange trade-in program. So this is the BlackBerry Passport. It's probably the widest phone I've ever tested and also the most original and square design for a handset in 2014. As far as the design is concerned, it's atypical, it's squared, it's elegant, and it's much more comfy than you'd expect after seeing only renders and hands-on pictures of the device. So it's totally a two-hand device. It's not to be used with one hand, but that's not impossible, as you can see here. The best way to keep it is like this. You use your index fingers to support it and you use your thumbs to type around. The thickness for this model is 9.3 millimeters and it weighs 196 grams, which is quite hefty. The width is the most impressive part. It's 90.3 millimeters. Meanwhile, the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 is only 78.6 millimeters wide, so that's a full 12 millimeters extra for the width of this model. It's also 20 grams heavier than the Galaxy Note 4, and this screen is a 4.5 incher, completely squared, and once again this model is totally intended for two-hand usage, as you can see me doing right here. And I have to say, we have a sturdy metal frame that you can see shining here. This one feels very solid. It's a very solid device with rounded edges, so it doesn't cut into your palm. The back is made of polycarbonate. It's a matte polycarbonate and a soft touch one. We also have a small camera bump of only 0.3 millimeters, and the frame is made of stainless steel as far as I know. You can see it on the sides, very sturdy, very resilient, and stainless steel is also applied between the keyboard rows. Up front we have the front camera, here we have the earpiece, we have the display with Gorilla Glass 3 protection, and the 3-row QWERTY keyboard that gets lit up when used. Don't know if you can see it, but once again I have to say that it gets lit up when you're using it. So for example, if you access the web browser and you want to type something, the keys get lit, so it makes the experience more comfy. Okay, so getting past the keyboard, we go forward to the back, where you can find the camera and flash placed above it, plus the logo right here, and you can remove this top section. Be careful not to lose a fingernail because it's very hard to remove. You have to pull it really good, and this is what comes out. This is the lid, and below the lid you will find the nano SIM card slot here and the micro SD card slot here, and that's that. Then we put it back. Okay, on the right side we can find the volume buttons, this one, and between them an extra button that if pressed can trigger the virtual assistant that BlackBerry provides and can also be used to play or pause songs with a single press. On the left side we have absolutely nothing, and on the top you can find the on-off button that I'm constantly looking for and the audio jack. All the buttons have good feedback, by the way. This one, these ones, and the one between them, all of them good feedback. At the bottom we can find the microphone, the micro USB port, and two speakers that I hope you can see, one here and one here. The battery is non-accessible to the user, just in case you were wondering. Overall, I would have to say that this design is a premium one, elegant and solid one, so there is not much to complain here, even if you're a picky user. Of course, you actually have to make good use of such a wide phone and be prepared to use this keyboard here. By the way, right now I'm scrolling using the touch aspect of the keyboard, so how cool is that? Once again, it's a premium phone, it's a solid phone, and it's not for everyone, but even those people who don't dig Blackberries will love this phone. As far as the hardware is concerned, this model offers a 4.5-inch screen. It's an IPS LCD with 453 ppi density, and it offers a resolution. It's an atypical resolution. It's 1440 over 1440 pixels, since it's a square screen. We have 24-bit color depth, and the CPU inside the phone, well, this one is a quad-core Snapdragon 801 clocked at 2.2 GHz. The GPU is the Adreno 330 clocked at 450 MHz. There is also 3 GB of RAM, inside the phone, and a micro SD card slot offering support for up to 128 GB extra. At the back we find a bit of a surprise. Usually BlackBerrys don't focus much on camera. This one is a 13 megapixel camera with LED flash and optical image stabilization. The camera at the front, 2 megapixel shooter. We have stereo speakers at the bottom. On the connectivity side there's micro USB 2.0, there's LTE, there's quad band, GSM, GPRS, Edge, there's HSPA+, we also have Wi-Fi, ABGN AC, there's Miracast, there's Wi-Fi Direct, and there's also GPS, NFC, and GLONASS, FM radio, and Bluetooth 4.0 is available here as well. Other stuff we're mentioning, we got an accelerometer, we got a gyroscope, magnetometer, and ambient light sensor. The battery we're dealing with here is 3450 mAh that on paper should provide you with 14 hours of GSM talk time, or 91 hours of music, or 11 hours of video playback. Our test that involves a looped HD video with Wi-Fi on and brightness of 50%. Let's see how much time it brought us. So in the picture area, we should be able to go to the screenshots and we should be able to show you the evolution of the power usage. We started at 100%, and in properties you can see it all started on December 6th at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. and then it dropped till finally we reached 3%, and this happened at 10 p.m. 10:26 p.m. So overall we get 9 hours and 20 minutes of HD video playback, which is pretty okay for this phone. However, this is not a fair assessment of the battery, since BlackBerrys are not exactly made for video playback. I would have to say that with regular usage, I mean phone calls, I mean apps, I mean YouTube, web browsing and all that, you should achieve 2 days of usage or 1 day and a half. The battery is good and the charging takes place in 2 hours and 15 minutes, which is also okay. I have to mention that if you access the settings, it's very hard to find battery data. I actually got angry and annoyed at first, but then I looked it up on the web. Go to App Manager, Device Monitor, and you actually get a very detailed graph of what's using up your battery, and you can organize it by last 48 hours, 24 hours, 12 hours, or since last charge. Once again, pretty detailed graph. And another thing that bugs me is the fact that you will never see the percentage of the battery here in the corner, just the battery. However, once you do this motion, you'll see the percentage pop up, so not all the fight is lost. Overall, a good battery, and I have to say I quite regret the lack of a power saving mode. Now, as far as the acoustics are concerned, let's check out the music player of the device. So here it is. We're dealing with a minimalistic music player that has the songs organized like this in library. You can organize them in playlists, you can view all the songs. Here are the playlists, you got favorites, and you got a special section for the radio. Now let's view all the songs at once. This is the list. Once again, very minimalistic, and there is a play pause button right here between the volume buttons. You can press it to activate a song or press it again to pause that song. And now let's actually check out the experience and start off with a song. And once again, press this button, it pauses it and plays it again. Let's turn up the volume. Speakers right here. And now let's draw some conclusions. As you just saw, we also have an equalizer in this player here, plus options like edit order, add to favorites, set as ringtone, open in, and once again the equalizer that's focused on genres and boosting stuff like the bass, treble, voice, and voice, as I said before. So let's see it again. You can boost the bass, treble, voice, lower the bass, lower the treble and lower the voice, plus select acoustic, dance, electronic, hip-hop, jazz, lounge, piano, R&B, rock or spoken word. Now some conclusions about the experience per se. We have two speakers here with huge volume. I have to say I'm pretty impressed. We have a hugely loud handset here, the BlackBerry Passport, and it can cover a conversation. That's how loud it is. We have good bass. The sound is crisp and clear and clean. However, if you take the volume all the way to the maximum, there's a slight bit of distortion. There are options that you saw here on the right side of the screen, the equalizer, and sadly there is no music control in the lock screen. So for example, if I do something like this, there is no lock screen music control, and as you can see, there is no music control in the drop down area either, which is something that we do get on Android, as you probably know. Okay, so let's get to the headphones. I told you they were pretty strange when I unboxed the device. Here they are. They remind me more of Bluetooth headsets than a regular headphone. I have to say that they're pretty hard to stick in the ear because they're quite big, and it's pretty hard to bend this little flap into your ear drum or your ear hole, excuse me. At least the wire is tangle free, and in spite of the fact they're not comfy, I have to say that they're pretty loud. They're very loud actually, but they don't damage the ear like some other models do. The sound they offer is clean, crisp, we have a good bass. So once again, good headphones, but the design doesn't impress me because they're not very comfy. We also have a small remote here. And now let's actually connect these headphones using the jack at the top. We're connected now, so this means we can go out and use the radio feature. Here it is, the radio interface, very intuitive, very simple. Some of the options like tune to and scan, very easy to use. If you press one of these, cannot detect the region, sadly. So that may require mobile network. Anyway, that's the FM radio section that you just saw. And now I'm going to move to the decibel area. So let's put the headphones aside. Once again, huge volume of the speakers, which will be confirmed in a minute now by the decibel meter test that we did. So here we go. This is a decibel meter and it's showing 95.2 decibels, which is crazy good. We tested a lot of phones here at gsmdome.com, and for example the LG G3 scores 87 decibels, the iPhone 6 Plus 83 decibels, and this one 95.2. I'm guessing it can even beat the HTC One M8 when it comes to loudness. However, I doubt it has a sound that's as good to your ears as the HTC One M8 that has a very well sounding pair of speakers. Okay, so overall excellent audio, very loud acoustics, good headphones, but not very comfy headphones. As far as the screen and video are concerned, we're dealing with a wide screen, 4.5-inch IPS LCD, a resolution of 1440 over 1440 pixels. It's a square screen with a 453 ppi density. This screen is actually 30% wider than the one of a 5-inch phone. It offers 24-bit color depth and it has an aspect ratio of 1:1. Now let's see the video player. Here it is. It has a sort of header at the top showing you the recently played videos. And another thing I must mention about this display is that it's able to display 60 characters across, which is quite impressive in my book. So the player has this nice effect. It's very minimalistic. As you can see, we have a minimalistic UI. You can change the crop, you can do some pinch to zoom in the video. So let's check out a test video. Let's turn down the volume a little bit. As I said before, you can change the crop to your liking and you can pinch to zoom like this. And now let's admire the colors. There's also an extra pair of options here. We got equalizer with stuff like aeroplane, bass boost, treble boost, voice boost, or lowering them. Let's check out some more of this sample. The screen is crisp, clear. The blacks are not as deep as the ones of an AMOLED, obviously. There's a slight bit of oversaturation going on. The screen is bright, it has wide viewing angles. As you can see, and we have an okay contrast, but I wouldn't go further than that. And another video sample. So once again, crisp, clear, blacks are not deep, oversaturation a bit, brightness is okay, and wide viewing angles, so that's that. We also tested the screen under the microscope, and aside from the microscope we also used the lux meter. Here we go. That's what the screen looks like under the microscope. These are RGB striped pixels, and as far as the brightness is concerned, something interesting to mention here, we actually faced a pair of various brightnesses. For example, the auto brightness setting is actually very enthusiastic, and even at the top level it can adapt always. And for example, if the handset is exposed to a very high source of light, it can increase its brightness hugely, but if it's exposed to an internal light, for example the one in your home, it takes the brightness all the way to the top, but the top is lower than the top in full sunlight. For example, the top level of the brightness indoors is 324 at artificial lighting, 334 lux, while if you use a bit of sunlight it can go to 362. It was a very cloudy day when we achieved 362. I'm betting that in a full sunlight day we can go past 450 lux easily. Meanwhile, for example, a Galaxy S5 scores 480 lux, the Sony Xperia Z2 366 lux, and the Galaxy Note 4 and the iPhone 6 Plus get past 600 lux. This is not the brightest phone in the world, but it's bright enough for your business and leisure features. It's bright enough to watch a video, compose an email, do some browsing, and mess around with your XLS and PowerPoint files. There are also special settings for this display, so let's check them out. Here we go. We have a brightness option, obviously, font size with a lot of options, and there's something called display color settings, allowing you to play with white balance, make the screen warmer or cooler depending on your preference. You can also play with the saturation. So as I said before, the screen is a bit oversaturated, but you can solve that in this area here by messing with these sliders. Of course, there should also be an option to reset these or leave them as they are. We move further, we have the screen timeout option, have swipe to wake, always show icon labels, and HDMI settings. As you know, this micro USB port here also offers video out signal and audio out, and there is a share screen option and an advanced for a retail display mode. I doubt that interests you. So overall the screen is good, pretty good display, wide viewing angles, so everything is impressive, nothing to object here. And once again, the oversaturation problem can be solved from the settings. Now, as far as the camera is concerned, let me just bring this castle here in order to trigger the interface. We're dealing with a 13 megapixel shooter at the back with optical image stabilization, LED flash. It can film in Full HD at 60 frames per second. There's f2.0 aperture. It's a BSI sensor with a 5-element lens. Now I'm going to open up the camera and check out the UI. As you can see, it's not the fastest camera in the world, it doesn't have a high frame rate, and the interface is totally minimalistic. At the bottom we have a front camera shortcut, we have the shutter button and the video shutter button, and then a series of options. We have the switch camera option, a bunch of scenes like auto, action, whiteboard, night, beach or snow. There's flash options, there's ratio 1:1, 4:3, 16:9, HDR, timers like 3 seconds or 10 seconds, and then there's an area filled with settings. We got video size for the rear camera. You can film in 720p or 1080p at 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second for both of them. There's face detection, auto suggest, save on media card, display grid lines, save the original when taking an HDR photo, video stabilization, continuous video focus, and geotag for the pictures. There are also special modes. We have time shift, burst, and panorama. Time shift, well, basically it takes a series of shots and allows you to cycle through the people's faces. For example, if one of them blinked in a group and the other one of them pulled out its tongue, you can select the ones that are not funny and the ones with the eyes open, but you can leave their bodies intact while you only tweak the face. So that's what the time shift burst was about. There's also, as I said earlier, the burst feature and panorama that pretty much speak for themselves. Okay, now let's actually take a picture of this castle. As you can see, the focus is quite slow and takes a while to get going, so I just took the shot. It didn't happen very fast, and as you saw earlier, there are 3 aspects of the camera being slow: the time it takes to open up the app, the time it takes to take a picture, and the time it takes to focus all of them quite slow. However, the level of detail of the picture is quite good. As you'll see in the following minutes, this handset can easily handle close-up pictures, but not much else. So I'm pinching to zoom and seeing good details of this castle here. And now we're done with it. Let's put it aside. And I'm going to show you a gallery of the shots we've taken for the past days using the BlackBerry Passport. So we have quite a few of them. We'll start off with a few macros of an SD card. Very good level of detail, as you can see. The flash feels a bit too strong at times, which is proved here. Slight discoloration because of it. And some more shots. As you can see, the colors are a bit cold. I've heard people complaining about oversaturation. This one is supposed to be a low light shot, didn't handle the low light situation quite well. And then we have a good level of detail. I wouldn't go to call it stellar or fantastic, just good. So it offers a good level of detail. Some more shots. Cold colors yet again. It was a cloudy day, and now this is the HDR in action. Quite good, I would have to say. Once again, okay colors, but a bit cold. Very good macro. Impressive level of detail. And HDR in action yet again, this time pretty impressive. The pictures aren't something out of the ordinary. I would say they're quite ordinary. They're certainly below any of the 2014 flagships, that's for sure. We also tried a panorama or two. Once again, very good close-ups, not so good landscape pictures. This is an attempt at a panorama, and if you zoom in, you'll see that there is a bit of noise going on here, which is a bit disappointing. And these panoramas don't have a very high resolution compared to the ones pulled by other models. And yet again, some noise, and not a very wide panorama, I have to mention. Let's see this one. Some noise appears here as well, so noisy panoramas aren't exactly a compliment for this handset. So once again, poor low light capture, cold colors, but at least the exposure, white balance and focus is okay, so that's a fact. You can take a regular shot in 3120 over 3120 pixel resolution. That's a 1:1 shot. That's a selfie, by the way, and the front selfie camera is decent. You can take a 4:3 picture in 4160 over 3120, and I would say once again that the exposure and white balance are okay, but nothing more than that. This is a shot taken under artificial lighting, and once again, close-ups are this handset's strongest point. Not a very good level of detail unless you're taking a macro. And once again, good selfie. And now it's time to analyze the videos we've taken using this camera. Okay, so they're taken in MP4 form. That's the format here. The quality is okay. Let's see one of them. We have good colors, good exposure and white balance. This is a full HD MP4 video. You can also film in 60 frames per second. Frankly speaking, I didn't feel the difference between 60 frames per second and 30 frames per second. We usually feel the difference. And now let's go to a video where we test the zoom feature. There's a lot of detail lost here and a slight bit of loss of focus. The situation is also a low light one, partially, and it doesn't handle that well. Next up, we should be able to test the optical image stabilization, which leaves a lot to be desired. The movement is very jittery. Try to compare this to the iPhone 6 Plus stabilization, or even the electronic stabilization of the iPhone 6, or even the electronic one of the Sony Xperia Z3, and you'll see what I mean. A good piece of news is that you can change the focus while filming, but you have to drag on the screen and not tap to do that, but at least you can change focus. Once again, a lot of detail loss when zooming in. The videos can be taken in Full HD, in 30 or 60 frames per second, and both of the variations of the capture have pretty much the same bitrate. That bitrate is 15.5 mega per second, which is a pretty low bitrate compared to modern standards. The acoustics are quite good when filming. We have stereo acoustics, and there's 192 kilobytes per second bitrate for the acoustics and 48 kilohertz sampling rate. And here you can see yet again the level of detail loss when zooming in while filming in Full HD. The camera is not impressive on the BlackBerry Passport. Frankly speaking, we didn't even expect it to be, since this is a business phone after all, not exactly focused on camera capture. However, the aspect that matters, which is close-up shots and selfies, both of them are handled admirably. Aside from the macros, there's nothing to write home about when it comes to this camera. However, the editing is quite nice, so if I take this shot and press either edit or using story makers, I will have a bit of fun with it. In edit, I can play with a bunch of filters like halftone, 70s, 60s, antique, low-mo, black and white. Then there are the enhancements. We got auto enhance, red eye reduction, brightness, contrast, saturation, white balance, sharpness, noise reduction. We have a bunch of frames to play with, like H photo, film strip. We got the crop here, rotate left, rotate right, free crop, square, 16:9, 4:3, vertical mirror, horizontal mirror, and finally you can discard the changes and go back to the original shot. That one is the photo editing, but we also have some video editing that I find to be quite impressive. So if I press edit, aside from changing the length of the video, I can also crop it up, enhance it with slow motion, brightness, contrast, saturation and volume, even apply filters like old video, vintage, black and white, bleach bypass and chromatic, and I would have to go to that impressive slow motion area. And in order to properly apply it, I'm going to find that video of a tram. Here it is, the tram is coming, and let's press edit. Enhance and slow motion. It will also affect the acoustics, as you can hear. So once again, you can edit the brightness, contrast, saturation, and even the volume, plus add this slow motion effect in order to make your videos much cooler. So on the editing part, we're happy with this phone. Now let's see how we're doing on the temperature part, but before that, let's close some apps, and I'm going to discuss this mechanism a little bit later. Okay, as I said, I'm going to show you the temperature here. After playing 15 minutes of the game Riptide GP2, we achieved 42 degrees Celsius, which is slight overheating from part of this phone. Now, as far as the phone calling is concerned, we're dealing here with a total record breaker. This one uses BlackBerry natural sound and HD voice, and it has something called active leak compensation. Basically, it can auto adjust the call volume based on how close you hold the phone to your face. Also, you should remember that this phone, the BlackBerry Passport, comes with a quad microphone setup. There's even a special microphone in the earpiece that feels the pressure inside your ear in order to make the call ideal. So that's impressive. We have excellent calls, flawless calls, very loud volume. It can handle background noise like a charm. It's loud and it's clear, and there's no signal loss, so that's impressive. We obviously also did some benchmarks. Not all of them worked. We have to use APKs from Android apps in order to pull them. So here we go. I decided to compare this phone to several other models that have 3 GB of RAM and Snapdragon 801 processors. So I compared the BlackBerry Passport to the Sony Xperia Z2, LG G3 and the iPhone 6 Plus, just to have a phablet in the mix, one with a different OS than Android. So in Antutu we scored 29,787, the Xperia Z2 scored 33,067, and the LG G3 35,637, so it beat us in this test. In the number 2, 58 frames per second, the Xperia Z2 scored 59.8 frames per second, and the LG G3 59.9. Both of them beat us yet again. This is the Velamo test. The other two types of tests from Velamo didn't run here, but Metal did, and we scored 1412, and we got beaten by the Xperia Z2 with its 1500 points, while the LG G3 scores 1523, so it beat us once again. Pretty low score in Nanomark, iStorm Unlimited, 3D Mark, iStorm Unlimited. We scored 10,398, which is certainly lower than the 18,358 of the Xperia Z2 or the 16,095 of the LG G3 or also the 17,925 of the iPhone 6 Plus. Next up, we got the speed test, 20 Mbps in download, 20 Mbps in upload. The Xperia Z2 has 22 and 23, the LG G3 has 20 and 21, and the iPhone 6 Plus 24 and 20, so once again beaten in a test. Browser mark, pretty low score, 796. The Xperia Z2 had 2800, the LG G3 has 1187, and the iPhone 6 Plus couldn't complete the test. Next up, SunSpider, 886. Once again a pretty bad score. Here higher is worse and lower is better. Meanwhile, the Xperia Z2 had a worse score, 1000 points, the LG G3 a better score, 652, and the iPhone 6 Plus 363, so it beat us totally. In the meantime, in spite of the fact I couldn't run Geekbench 3 and GFX Bench on this device, I looked up the Passport's performance on the official databases, and Geekbench 3 should offer a score of 769 in the single core test and 2371 in the multi-core one. Once again, that's the result shown officially on the Geekbench 3 website for the Passport. Meanwhile, the Xperia Z2 scores 941 and 2748, LG G3 scores 960 over 2333, and iPhone 6 Plus 1629 over 2922, so once again beaten. These results are not impressive if you ask me. However, the phone doesn't lag, there's no trace of lag, there's a very efficient multitasking, and you can run games with 3D graphics with no problem, such is the case with Riptide GP2. We also tried running Temple Run 2, but it had some problems with the gyroscope, problems that don't happen here. Here we go. As you can see, the graphics are exquisite, as you'll see in a minute. Impressive lighting effect. And the gyroscope works fine. It's quite strange to play the game on this phone, on the BlackBerry Passport, but I guess we'll make it work, and now we should be able to pull a stunt. And once again, it's looking quite fine on the 4.5-inch square screen. It's running fine. There is dynamic lighting, there is a cool water effect, there is droplets on the screen, and everything is satisfactory. Okay, so enough about this. This is Riptide GP2 running perfectly on the BlackBerry Passport. Speaking of games, I also have to mention that some of the titles played on the BlackBerry Passport will look stretched, the resolution will look a bit odd, and for example in Temple Run 2 there are some problems with the gyroscope. Now as far as the web browsing is concerned, this is it, you can type an address here, so let's write gsmdome.com. We got the .com here, we're pressing it, and it's loading pretty fast. As you can see, almost instantly. The screen looks crisp, you can pinch to zoom easily, there's no problem with the web browsing here, and the images and everything look very nice. We got here the tab system, press a new tab, check it out like this. You can view the page you recently accessed, go to gsmdome.com. You can add to home screen, add a bookmark, select the reader mode, find on page, reload, share, and we have a bunch of settings including display and actions, like open links for new tabs in the background, search suggestions, and Adobe Flash is also here. We got privacy and security with site exceptions and cookies, site permissions, and developer tools. So as usual, BlackBerry offers a ton of features, and it offers Flash, which is important. Okay, now we're in the software area of the review. We're running BlackBerry OS 10.3 here, and this involves, as usual, a main home screen where the multitasking happens. We have these multitasking thumbnails here, and you can press the X to close them. There's a small X in the corner of each of them, and if you swipe to the left, you'll see the app list taking up the other home screens. Those are the apps installed or pre-installed on the device. And then we've got something called BlackBerry Hub that you're probably familiar with. It focuses on all your communication methods. We got your email, we got notifications from apps, stuff people post on Facebook, tweets regarding you, calls. You can see here everything. We got Priority Hub that focuses on what's most important right now. We got notifications, BlackBerry Messenger, text messages, Two email accounts synced, Facebook, Twitter, calls, emergency alerts, and pin messages. It's all based on swipe, it's all very intuitive, and there's a comfy compose button, attachment, and a search, all of them available here. You can also add more accounts here. Got also display and action here, hub management, and prioritization of those accounts. We have email accounts, text messages. That's BlackBerry Hub in a nutshell. By the way, once you're in an application like music, for example, or any application, if you do something like this, you will see a summary of what's happening in the hub right here on the left side of the screen, with numbers attached to the notifications and things that are happening in the background. So you get emails, notifications about apps, you compose, you attach, everything is fast and everything is intuitive. And once again, if you're wondering how the multitasking happens, let's say you're inside an app and let's analyze the gestures available here. So if you swipe up, you gradually turn the app into a thumbnail and make it go to the multitasking mode. And if you're in an app and you partially swipe up, not totally but partially, you can see the notifications. If you totally swipe up, it can go to multitasking. If you swipe down, you'll see the settings and options associated to the app. Some apps have it, some don't. For example, the calendar. If I swipe down here, I can see manage and settings, and that's another gesture. So remember, swiping up goes to multitasking, swiping down triggers those special options of the application like manage and settings in this case. In the home screen, let's go to the home screen. If you swipe down from the top, there is a drop down area with quick settings, the usual ones related to that are associated to connectivity, alarm, brightness, torch, and a few features, plus a settings button that you can press. This is it. This is the settings area with a ton of features, including security features. We got a flight mode, networks and connections, we got notification features. By the way, we have the LED right here, in case you're wondering, next to the front camera. We got main volume, accounts, we got quick settings that you can customize, those that are shown in the drop down area, display settings, language and input, BlackBerry Assistant, device connections, BlackBerry ID, BlackBerry Protect, allowing you to secure and locate your device in case it's stolen or lost, and then security and privacy with a ton of features like device password, lock screen behavior and notifications, SIM card, smart card, encryption, parental controls, diagnostics, security wipe, and more. So that's pretty impressive. And then we have media sharing, allowing you to connect to a TV via DLNA and stuff like that, share music. And we have something called advanced interaction, basically gestures. You can lift the phone to wake up, flip to mute, and flip to save power. You can also do a two-finger swipe in applications, something like this, in order to view the quick settings. And those are all the gestures you have available here. And if you keep the button between the volume buttons pressed, you trigger BlackBerry Assistant, and it allows you to do stuff like set alarm, change settings, open apps, send an email. And right now it's listening to my command and it's probably totally confused. Okay, let's close it down for now and let's open it up again. What's the weather like? Didn't hear the like part, but it got the idea.
The forecast for Dobrosti, Romania on Thursday is light fog and 36 degrees.
You can also get answers to your questions using the Wolfram Alpha engine. Who was Steve Jobs? As you can see, it's taking a long time compared to Siri or Google Now or Cortana, but this one was launched later than those ones, so it has circumstances. You can also dictate an email. Write email to Alex S.
Would you like to add recipients to this message?
No.
What is the subject of your message?
Hello there.
What would you like your message to say?
Cancel.
Cancelled.
Okay, so you get the idea. You can play music, update Facebook status, search for something, and those are all the features that can be activated from this area. So it may look useful, but it's not very fast, sadly. It has a lot of potential and maybe it will evolve in the future. What I like about this assistant was its very good recognition, so in spite of the speed, at least it got good recognition. And now we're in that part of the review where we address the 3-row QWERTY keyboard that also serves as a touchpad and also gets combined with part of the touchscreen to show symbols and numbers. So I'm going to go to Docs to Go and create a document and maybe start typing. So let's write, let's say, 2 sentences. And if you ask me, that was fast. Hello guys, how are you doing right now? I'm fine, the weather is great. And we also have suggestions. So if I say something like hey, let's delete that and write it again. So hey, then I can select heya by swiping up on the keyboard. Guys, next up, let's see what happens. Just us a friend, and then it runs out of suggestions. So you just saw earlier that the suggestions can be triggered simply by swiping up on the keyboard, which is very cool. I have to say that the writing is very fast, the keyboard is very comfy, and you can delete stuff as easy as, let's write hello, and then I can delete it simply by swiping to the left on the touch enabled QWERTY keyboard. And as you can see, the touchscreen shows you not only the symbols but also the numbers and also the suggestions that are shown in a tiny row above the symbols area. Very intuitive, very easy to use. My only objection here is the fact that the space bar is a bit too small. Once again, you swipe up to your suggestions and you swipe to the left to delete stuff you've written. So that's everything I had to say about the keyboard. I'm very happy with it, one of the best QWERTY keyboards I've ever used. As far as BlackBerry OS 10.3 is concerned, compared to the previous versions, we get a flatter UI, new icons, and we get brand new buttons and brand new UI elements. Now you can have up to 8 active frames on the home screen. By the way, these ones are called active frames, and you can change their position like this. You can keep them pressed and move them around to change their priority and position. And that's one of the elements that's been brought to the table with the latest BlackBerry OS. Other stuff, let's show you copy paste and cut. So let's try to write if possible. Okay, a little bit of lag there. Hello guys, keep the screen pressed. Okay, now you can select stuff, you can cut it, and then you keep the screen pressed again, and you should be able to paste it easily like this. So that was the cut, copy, paste area. And now we're off to the applications area, and we have quite a lot of pre-installed applications on this device. We start off with the Amazon App Store. That's very useful. It's one of the 2 places where you can download applications, cool ones, including games and other stuff. As you can see, a lot of price reductions and nifty deals. Aside from the Amazon App Store, you can install Android apps by using their APK files, and there is also BlackBerry World with a very minimalistic user interface. I'm not exactly impressed by the selection of games or apps here, but it will evolve over time, so let's give it a chance. Other than that, let's see what we got here. We got BlackBerry Hub, we got Contacts, we got Calendar, a calendar on steroids with a very nice UI, both intuitive and complex at the same time. We got BBM, text messages, App Store, browser, Docs to Go. And Docs to Go, aside from allowing you to create a document with a ton of cool options, it also includes text alignment and these options here, font type, and all sorts of bullets and numbering. Let's go back to it and maybe close it for now, and let's open it up again. So as I said, Docs to Go. Aside from creating a document, you can also create an XLS file. So yes, you can play with the table, you can zoom into it, interact with all sorts of sheets, play with the format, and do some cell formatting. I'm not very good with Excel, but I'm guessing this is pretty intuitive, even for people who work with this on a regular basis. Let's close this down, and you can also play, as far as I know, with a PowerPoint file. So this is an example of a PowerPoint file that's totally editable. Those are the slides. You can interact with the notes, file info, show on, and that's that. So you can play with doc files, XLS files, and PowerPoint files with ease. Then we got maps, a very basic maps application. Don't expect anything fancy here. Of course, you can install Google Maps, but we will not use the Google Play services. It doesn't have access to them. You can show traffic, show my places, or locate yourself. Next up, we got something called Remember. This one is basically your reminder application that can integrate photos, new tasks, voice notes. You can sort them, and you can sync stuff up to your accounts. You can view your notes and even tag stuff to make it easier to track them up. Then we got pictures, music, and videos. We have Story Maker. It's basically a collage creator. So create a new story. You select a bunch of pictures. You can also select videos, albums, and favorites. Then you select the music. Then you select the titles, and then yours should be done. So basically a video and photo collage of stuff on your device. And as far as I know, you can also tweak it and share it. You can also apply some filters: bleach, black and white, vintage, retrospect, simplicity. So that's pretty cool. Let's listen to the background tune, if there's any. Okay, so that was the editing part of Story Maker. Next up, we've got the usual clock that you can see right here, and then we got the weather using AccuWeather as far as I know, and then we got Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We got Foursquare, BlackBerry Blend. BlackBerry Blend is actually very interesting. Once you open it up and then you install it on your PC or your Android or your iOS device, you can move files back and forth from your iOS, Android, or PC, send and receive messages or access contacts, view movies and other files from your BlackBerry to your PC. And once again, you can use that on your iOS tablet or your Android device, so that's cool. If you left your BlackBerry at home and you want to view content from it using your Android phone, you can do that. All you have to do is download the BlackBerry Blend app and you're done. You have to insert your BlackBerry ID in a special area, put in your password, and everything should be okay. Now let's close some of these apps to not get crowded. So keep in mind, BlackBerry Blend is sort of like the Apple Continuity, only it's not that. Okay, and next up we have a calculator that has an interesting tip calculator. So if you're with your friends at a restaurant, you know how to calculate the tip and keep the waiter happy. Then we got Evernote, we got a file manager with a pretty, let's say, cool looking interface. I was about to say old school. We got Adobe Reader, we got YouTube, that sadly is only a link to the web browser. Sadly, no dedicated app here. We got Box, we got Dropbox, Smart Tags, we got a compass. Pretty efficient. And then we got settings, we got setup, tutorials, help, assistant, phone, camera, Pinterest, and the rest of the apps we installed. We even tried installing Google Maps. It worked, but keep in mind that apps such as Gmail, Google Maps, and everything from Google cannot be used for authentication, so you cannot sign into your account. So there's that. I would have to say that as far as the software is concerned, this one is a pretty intuitive interface with all the swiping and all the apps from all the sources. It's a nice looking interface, and I like the fact that you can run Android apps on it. However, not all of them work, and not all of them work as you desire. For example, some of the benchmarks do not work. So my conclusion is that this is a very sober interface and also very intuitive for more serious users than the regular smartphone guy. And now, as we approach the end of the review, I have to say that Passport, the BlackBerry Passport, is able to create and read QR codes. And in case you're wondering how to take screenshots, you have to press both volume buttons. and the screenshot has been saved in your personal space and everyone is happy. Okay, we're done with the review. It's time for the verdict. We got pros and cons for you. On the pro side, excellent productivity device. You can play with doc files, XLS files, PowerPoint files. You can check your email. You can sync your stuff and view it from the device to your PC, Android device or iOS device. It's comfier than expected. The keyboard is very easy to use in tandem with the touchscreen, and also keep in mind that you will be able to use this keyboard as a touchpad. We got superb acoustics, very high volume, a brilliant touchpad, a very good battery, good display, and good camera close-ups, excellent phone calling, so no problem here as far as the voice acoustics are concerned. It runs Android apps and the interface is quite nice, sober and intuitive. And on the cons side, this model is not exactly for everyone, it's not for the average user, it's quite pricey, it's big and wide. The camera is a bit poor compared to our expectations and compared to flagships. It can get quite hot, not overheating but quite hot. And for now, BlackBerry Assistant, it's in its early days, but it could get better. There is no power saving and no fingerprint scanner. Those two I consider to be business features that should be available on this model. The headphones aren't exactly comfy and many Android apps don't work on this device as they should. And another thing that I find lacking is the fact I cannot view notifications from the drop down area. However, at least I can view them in the lock screen, something like this. So there's that. And now let's give it some grades. The BlackBerry Passport gets from gsmdome.com a 9.1 for design, 9.2 for hardware, and a solid 9 out of 10 for OS and UI. The final grade is 9.1 out of 10 here at gsmdome.com. This is the best BlackBerry to date, the best QWERTY that money can buy right now, the best QWERTY keyboard, and we also have a nifty touchpad on this QWERTY keyboard, plus a nice combo between touchscreen and keyboard. So keep that in mind. The phone costs around $600 and it's an excellent QWERTY device, excellent for productivity. The camera is a bit under par, but at least you can install apps from 3 sources. That's it from gsmdome.com, 9.1 out of 10 for the Passport. Bye bye.